Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Killingly Public Library's craft videos. Today we're going to make a ghost and I'm going to use a jar, some yarn, and a little black paper. Nothing fancy, pretty simple. I'm going to start by taking the lid of my jar and tracing it onto my cardstock, my black cardstock. Also, I have a little kind of oval shape I want to use for my eyes for my ghost. You can create whatever you like for your ghost. And I made a template for it just because I wanted my eyes to be uniform. I didn't want to have one larger than the other, and I knew if I just cut it randomly, that's what would happen. The other template I made was I made a 6.5 inch circle. It's 6.5 inches in diameter, and I just traced the lid, and then I cut it in half so that I have just a half a circle. I've traced all of these onto my black paper. I just need to cut them out. All right, I have two eyes, and I have a half a circle and a circle. I'm going to use this full circle for the brim of my hat. I'm just going to take and push the scissors through my paper so I can make some make an X in the middle of my circle, and then I can bend up the little points to, you know, adhere the hat to it, the cone part of the hat. My X is definitely not perfect, but it will work for what I need, right? So we just need to have some little flaps here. And if you want, you can even cut, you know, another line through here to have more like 8 pieces of pie instead of 4 pieces of pie. All right, and I'm going to push these up. These will help adhere the hat. If you have a better way, go for it. This is just what I thought would work for me. So it looks like a bunch of teeth, kind of. And they're just poking up. And we will take this half circle and we're going to kind of roll it to create a cone shape for our hat brim that we have, and we'll keep the flat edge as the top. I'm just going to kind of fold this down like so and roll this other piece around it like so, and you could staple or glue, whichever works for you. I just happen to have my hot glue gun right here, so I'm going to add some glue. And do be careful because the hot glue does kind of go right through the paper. I can feel it. It's pretty warm. And you can also lift the flap up inside and dab a little glue under there if you feel like it's not holding well. And then I'm going to just put it on top here and glue my flaps into the hat. And so I will need to cut them a little more, just they don't quite reach the inside, but I didn't want to overcut it before I had my hat done. And I could see where it would actually fall. All right, I'm going to take and glue this together. I'm just going to put the glue on this side of the little point, not on the inside, because when you put the cone on, you're going to then push the little, with your fingers here, you'll push them together. So put the glue where it's next to the brim here. And be careful you don't burn your fingers. Okay, there's my hat. I've glued the little points inside, and I'm just going to set my hat aside while we continue on with the rest of our craft. So now you want to take your jar, and I'm going to use my jar upside down, and I want to take and figure out how much it is for the yarn if it is at the middle of the jar down to the bottom. And then I'm just going to measure it with my ruler, and I have 6 inches. So I want the yarn to hang over both sides, so I need 12 inches. I have a 6-inch piece of cardboard here, and I'm going to wrap my yarn like so, around like 66 times, and then I'm going to trim the yarn after I've wrapped 66 times, and take another little piece of yarn and slide it under the yarn that you have wrapped 66 times, and just have it up at the top here, and then tie it in a knot. And then once it's tied in a knot, you can snip the other end at the very bottom so that you have 6 inches on each side. And if you make the piece you're tying 12 inches as well, you would then have another full piece of yarn hanging. I didn't take the time to wrap that 66 times for the video, but I have done it ahead, and so this is what it looks like, and I did it twice. Now I'm going to take the jar and I am going to glue this down in the middle like so, and it will hang over, and then I'm going to glue the other one over the top and hang it, and then, you know, kind of fiddle with it to fill it in, and you know, brush it out, you know, just using my fingers. I mean, I suppose you could brush it with a comb if you want, kind of like we've done for a beard for our gnome in the past, but I just wanted this to kind of hang like so. But so I'm gonna glue that down. One's done, and now I'll put some more glue there and do the other. Alright, my yarn is all glued onto my jar. Now my jar was 6 inches. Yours might be longer, but you know, that's okay. Just wrap it a bunch of times, the 66 times around for one of these little tassel-y things seems to have filled in my jar well. If your jar happens to be larger around, maybe you would need a little more, but this size, that seemed to fill it in nice. And all I'm gonna do now is glue my hat on top, so you won't even see this bump where they've kind of overlapped. And this is why I had traced the jar lid for the hat brim, because I wanted my hat to be about the same size as the top of my jar. So I'm just going to put some glue on my brim and glue it onto my yarn. And now comes the eyes. I'm just gonna find a spot and kind of stick 2 eyes on there. The seam of my cone is here, so I think I'm gonna put my eyes right here on the opposite side. And that is it. This is my yarn ghost. Now you could certainly take this farther if you wanted. You could maybe add some ribbon around the base of your cone to dress it up a little bit. You could even put one of those battery operated tea lights inside your jar. Just unscrew your lid and stick it here and screw it back on. And wouldn't he look really cool, because you'd see some of the light through this yarn and it would just kind of glow and be kind of eerie. It would look really cool, I think. But that is it. Pretty simple. You can certainly trim some of the yarn if you need to, or just leave it kind of shaggy and unkept. That works too. So I hope you enjoyed today's craft, and I would love to see pictures of your finished projects. If you would share them with me at info@killinglypl.org. I would love to see them. And thanks so much for stopping in today. Until our next craft video, have a great day.